For November, in my bullet journal, I'm using this romantic light academia theme. It's all about soft and creamy warm neutrals with little pops of pink and green. And despite how impactful it looks on the page, I promise this theme is actually a very easy one to set up. I'm not saying that it's mindful and demure, but it's not those things either. Hi, I'm Erin and I'm so excited to set up for November with you. I kind of can't believe this is my second last month in this journal, but I'm still using the TFOC A5 Bodhi grid journal. I've thrown a lot of stuff at this journal and it's holding up like a champ. I did some pre-planning for this layout with my channel members in a private live stream, and they helped me decide on the theme and the colors, and also to include a Dutch door for my cover spread here, so I'm just getting that sorted out. First of all, I removed about 9 grid spaces worth of page from the right side of my cover page, and I'm using this beautiful wide washi tape from Leela Journals to line underneath it so that will peek through when the page is pushed to the right. I'm also lining the edge of the cut page with this brown washi tape, which also appeared in the mystery journal for the November setup. I guess I'm just feeling warm tones for November this year. And I'm also making sure to bring that washi tape over to the back of the Dutch door page as well, so that that little pop of brown is on both sides. When I know I'm going to be removing part of the page, I like to decorate that first so that I really get an idea of how things are going to look before I decorate anything else. I'm also using quite a few pieces from the Paper Monogatari Botanist's Diary set, which came out recently. Anna very kindly sent me these ones and I straight away have jumped in and used them immediately because they're so pretty. As always, I will have links to everything I'm using in this video down in the description, so if anything catches your eye and you'd like to also add it to your collection, that's something you can do. This particular sheet of scrapbooking paper is only the size of a single A4 page, so I need to ration it a little bit to make sure I can get it all the way through this theme, but the pattern on this paper was actually what inspired the entire color scheme for this setup because it has this beautiful muted green and it also has a lovely dusky pink. Add a little torn edge to a floral printed paper like this and you've got instant romance, and that always makes me so happy. Thanks to that lovely sheet of floral paper, I remembered that I had this beauty in my collection just waiting for the opportune moment. This is the Floral Chronicles PET tape from the Washi tape shop, and at first I tried to cut the shapes out with this new gyro cutter tool that I got, but I don't think I like this thing very much. Maybe I just don't have the hang of it yet, but in the case of this particular setup, I decided it would be much easier to go back to my trusty scissors. The Washi tape shop do sell some already kiss-cut PET tapes now, but this one is a little bit older, so this one doesn't come in a pre-cut version, which means you have to do the hard work yourself, but that's okay because it is gorgeous. And I'm also teaming it up with another PET tape. This one is from Leela Journals, these beautiful gothic windows. And I feel like these are really what gives this setup the academia kind of vibe. Most of the elements I'm using to decorate this time are quite large, so it can get a little tricky to balance on the page, but we'll work it out as we go. To add to that romantic feeling, I wanted to hand letter all of my headings for this setup. And just to give you some context, I thought I'd show you full speed how slowly I take these letters because otherwise they end up very wonky. As it is, I think the O I'm lettering now could have been a little bit further away from the N, but I'm overall very happy with the way this lettering came together. Lately, I'm really enjoying the smaller brush tip end on the Ultra and Olive calligraphs for lettering. I find that it's got a very nice, easy to control tip on the brush. But I got these in a set with one of the Ultra and Olive subscription boxes from last year, and they didn't have color names or anything on them, so unfortunately I can't tell you exactly what they are. I'll be using 2 calligraphs and 1 Tombow dual brush pen as my only pens for this setup, and surprisingly, I'm actually not really using any black fine liners for this one. I will use my Tom Studio Ren pen a couple of times, but for the most part, I've kept my Pigma Microns out of this setup so far. That's very unusual for me, but I really wanted this setup to feel very soft and not to have very much contrast, so I really wanted to avoid black. There is a little bit of black on the clock faces of the Floral Chronicles tape, but it's not so much that it's going to turn me off, so I think that's fine. I'm also completely obsessed with these little cloud stickers from Leela Journals. They are so sweet. I still have a decent number of pages left in this journal. This one has 192 pages, which is a little bit more than I'm used to for my standard bullet journal. So I'm pretty happy to take my time with a self-indulgent cover spread like this and then still take a nice kind of non-functional intention setting spread for a quote as well, and know that I'm not going to run out of pages in this journal for my functional planning things at all. I think with a couple of memory keeping spreads for November, a couple of memory keeping spreads, and my setup for December, I'm going to probably come very, very close to finishing this journal, but maybe still have a couple of pages left over. For something a bit different, I thought for this quote page I would add my quote at the top and bottom of the spread and decorate through the center instead of around the outsides like I usually do. I had an idea of which stationery I wanted to use to decorate for this theme. I knew I wanted to use particular washi tapes and particular stickers, but I hadn't worked out where exactly they were going to sit on the page. I had kind of worked out generally where decoration might be, but nothing too specific. So I was really winging this collage thing as I went through, and I really enjoyed that process. It felt so creative. I did end up moving things around a few times if I changed my mind or I decided I wanted an element to go under one that was already on the page, but I'm totally okay with that. It's all part of the process and the end result is so worth it. At the beginning of November, I'll be getting home from a very exciting overseas trip, so I wanted to make sure that my quote was something that was going to make me feel good about being home rather than sliding into post-holiday blues, so I've chosen this one. Chase your dreams, but always know the road that will lead you home again. And I had a bit of trouble finding attribution for this one. Online, there are a few different sources that come up for it, so I've ended up not placing one, but if you know who the original source of this quote is, please let me know so I can give them some credit on my page. I'm also using this as an opportunity to introduce my green marker because I'm going to be using it in some functional ways later on in the setup. At the moment, I'm really liking this page with the amount of negative space around the lettering. I'm just adding a couple of little clouds, but I will come back to this after I've done the rest of the setup and add some more stickers, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, we've moved on to my calendar spread, which is the first of the functional spreads for the setup, and I didn't want to put things in boxes this time, but I still wanted everything to have its delineated, very obvious space where planning would take place. So I'm doing kind of a combination of an individual box with an extra space above it for the number for each day of the month, combined with a floating calendar, although usually a floating calendar at the top of every week would have a solid line where all the numbers would go. I always find those a little bit tricky to delineate where one day ends and the next one begins, so I've gone for this kind of broken line instead, and that way it makes it very obvious where each of the days are supposed to fall and where the planning for that day is supposed to go. It does leave the bottom week of the month, the last week of the month, with a bit of an open-ended planning space, but I'll be using my decoration to delineate the bottom of that planning space, so it's all going to come together in the end. This washi tape is also from the Botanist's Diary set from Paper Monogatari, and you can get it just on its own in case you didn't want to get the whole set. The design I'm cutting out at the moment is from a set of transfer stickers, which are a neat little thing that I've used in my reading journal before, but I don't think I've ever used them in my actual bullet journal. They're a little bit like temporary tattoos, so you cut out the design that you want, you peel off the backing and place it on the paper with the sticky side down, you rub over the top of it and then peel off the plastic, and the design is left on the page. I got both those transfer stickers and the spatula scraper thing that I used to get it onto the page from JOURNALSAY, and there are links to those in the description if you like. I'm also going to add a November header to this page, not because I feel like it needs one, but mostly just because I have one from an Autumn Serenity sticker sheet from Paper Monogatari from last year's autumn collection, and I don't love my placement of it there. I wish I'd put it a little to the right, and I did try to peel it back up to move it, but it started tearing the beautiful floral paper, so I thought we'd better just leave it there. The cloud sticker sheet from Leela Journals has lots of tiny little sparkle stickers on it, so I'm adding a few of those from this page onwards as well to bring a little bit of extra texture to my spreads. They are super tiny though, so I really recommend using some sticker tweezers to peel these ones up, otherwise you might find it a little bit fiddly to first of all peel up the sticker, but secondly get it exactly where you want it on the page. I'm pretty happy with how the calendar spread is looking, so let's take a little look at my grid spacing guide in case you want to recreate this calendar for yourself. Just keep in mind that I'm working in an A5 journal, so if you're using a different size notebook to me, you might need to adapt this to fit your page. So while the calendar took up a whole spread to itself, this time I'm going to have two different functions for the left and right pages, even though I'm going to design them in such a way that they kind of look like they belong together and make one big spread. On the left page, I've got my goals section and a space for reflection at the end of the month, and on the right page, I'm going to have a habit tracker. I'm going to set these up at the same time, even though they serve different purposes, because I'm going to be doing a very similar setup style with the marker here, so I'm just highlighting every second line so that it's very clear where the planning is going to take place. I really didn't want to put anything in a box this time, so I've worked out a little workaround here. I will have to draw some lines for the habit tracker, but I'm still leaving things very open. This is the Tombow Jewel brush pen in 992, in case you were wondering. I think the colour is called Sand, and it also appeared in my mystery journal setup for November for this year as well, which is kind of funny. I've got a lot of colour overlap, but I still think the designs look completely different, so that's pretty cool. This habit tracker gives me space to track 6 habits, as well as a space down the left side in that far left column for the initial and the number for each day of the month. It really tickles me how much my Tom Studio pen looks beautiful with this theme. It's just an absolute fluke. It's worked out very well. I got this one in blush just because I love the color of it. And I'm really glad I inked this pen up with just a plain black because I have been using it non-stop since I got it. It's fantastic. Over on the left page, the goals and reflection spaces are much more open, not so structured as the habit tracker section. They're just going to have a heading above each one so that I know which is which, and that's about all we need. Here's the grid spacing for this one before I get crazy with my decorations. For this one, I feel like it's pretty obvious where decoration should go. There's a nice chunk of space in the middle of the spread, and also a little bit on the lower left side, and quite a bit on the right side, so naturally, those spaces are where I'm going to put all my cute little collages. To add my headings for these sections, so I'm adding goals and reflections and habit tracker. I'm using a green marker for this, and I really like the way it looks layered over the top of the beige marker from earlier. I did want to mention though, I think this would look so cute with letter stamps. If you are not super into your handwriting and you wanted to use a different way, letter stamps all the way. A cute little typewriter kind of font I think would be so cute. Onward to my next spread. You might notice that the spreads I'm using and the order I'm placing them in is the same this month as it has been the last few months. That's because this is really working well for me at the moment, and when you find something that's working for you, I don't typically like to change it until it's not working for me anymore. That said, we are currently working on the content planner, and while I'm including it in the same place in the setup, I'm not using the same setup that I've used for my previous few content planners. I'm trying something completely new. In the past, I've set up content planners with space to schedule out my Instagram posts as well as YouTube videos, but I have been finding I'm not really using the Instagram section, so I thought, let's just not include it and instead really focus this on my YouTube content instead. At the moment, I post videos twice a week on Tuesday nights, kind of Wednesday mornings Australian time, and also on Friday evenings. So rather than drawing out a calendar that includes the entire month, I'm just setting up these spaces that are for all of the Tuesdays and all of the Fridays in November. This way, I'm allowing myself a bit more space for detail. I can almost make myself a video workflow checklist here if I wanted to, where I'm like shot and edited and voiceovered and thumbnailed. I can have spaces to check all of those things off. And I've had an idea that I think is going to be really useful, but we'll talk about that in a second. First of all, here's the grid spacing. I don't know if you would want to set up something like this, but I'll give you the grid spacing just in case you want to do one yourself. Maybe even if you're not posting YouTube videos, there could be a way that you could adapt this layout to fit something else in your life. That space in the top left corner there is the perfect opportunity to have a good time decorating, so I'm going to take advantage of that. It can be a little tricky sometimes when you have a really obvious space like this. Of course you want to fill it in with some pretty things, but sometimes that can leave your layout looking quite unbalanced because you have a lot going on in one area and then not so much going on around it. So the way I'm going to counteract that is I'm going to add some decoration that kind of matches it but is a little bit less visually busy in the bottom right corner. I don't have a really dedicated space for it the way I did in that top left, but having something that looks similar to the top left corner in the bottom right is going to bring some balance and some cohesion to this layout that we wouldn't have otherwise. It's also given me an opportunity to use a piece of the tape that I had cut off earlier that I didn't really think I was going to get a chance to use because it had a lot more yellow and orange in it than the other parts of that PET tape, so I thought this isn't really working with my theme, but I could use the top part. Now here's something I'm really excited about for this layout. I've been having to move videos around a lot lately, so I'm thinking I might even write them on sticky notes like this, and then I have the ability to reshuffle things really easily just by moving my sticky note to a different day. Come back next month, I guess, if you want to find out if this layout really works well for me, because if it does, I'll be taking it forward with me into December as well. We've moved on now to my final spread for this setup. This is the first of my weeklies, but I'm making it a bit different to how I typically approach my weeklies. Usually I like to have from Monday to Sunday on a single weekly in my journal, even if that takes it outside the bounds of the month. So if I have more days in, for instance, October than November, then that week will go into the October setup. But I'm traveling through the second half of October into the beginning of November this year, and I didn't want to have awkward days just kind of left around. Back in my October spreads, I've ended up with a weekly that has 3 days on it and a space to plan packing and preparation things for my trip, but I'll be back in the country for Sunday the 3rd of November, and I wanted to have space for planning for that day because I will have quite a lot to do when I get home. But I didn't want it to have its own weird, awkward spread, and I didn't want to skip it because I do need to do some planning for that day, so I've ended up just squishing it onto a weekly with the following week. And I'm totally fine with that. I think this is a pretty good solution. Sometimes I like to do the same thing with December or January or maybe even with June and July, because if I'm moving into a new journal, I don't want to have the week kind of split in the middle. I'd like to have the whole thing together in one journal, and if you get to kind of the end of the year and the 31st is on a Monday and you like to start your weeks on a Monday, it can get a bit awkward, so this is a good layout for that. Here's the grid spacing in case you like the idea of it, but this is really just 4 columns, so you can put more days on here if you want to, or you could reduce them and have more space for decoration. it's really interesting that sometimes the most unexpected themes are the ones that you end up loving the most. So for this theme, I really had no idea what I was doing just a few days ago. Sitting down with my channel members really helped because I got to talk it all through with them, but we ended up going through some of my stationery that I really like that I hadn't had a chance to use yet, and working out the theme based on that, so starting with one thing and building it out from there. And the end result is one of my favourite bullet journal themes I've done so far this year. So a huge shout out to my channel members, you are the best, I really appreciate your help so much. And if you're not a channel member yet, but getting in on these private live streams sounds like something you might be interested in, there is a link in the description that says join the channel. You can click on that to find out more information, find out what the prices are for the different tiers, and find out exactly what's included as well. I'm feeling pretty happy with how this weekly is looking. I won't be setting up any more weeklies for November in this video. We'll do those on a live stream in the beginning of November, so keep an eye out for that. It's not scheduled yet. Since I was really winging it with my design for this setup, I have missed a few things, and also I wanted to go back through and add some more stickers in places that I maybe didn't notice. I would like some. I've really got more of a handle on the theme now that I've done like 5 spreads of it, so we're just going to work backwards through the pages and add things as needed. And I've realized I forgot to add a header to the content planner page somehow, so just adding that on some sticker paper so I can pop it over the top of the decoration that's in the top left corner. White matte sticker paper is an absolute must-have for me now because it's so good for things like this. If you need an element to stand out against a fairly busy background, it's on white sticker paper, so you're always going to be able to see it. And also for covering larger mistakes, this can be incredible stuff. I picked up the pack of sticker paper that I use from my local stationery store, Stashworld. I love them so much. If you're in Brisbane, you must check them out. But I've also seen people online use just like label paper for their sticker printing, and that seems to work really well for them too. So I assume you could also write on it. I don't know. Now we're just moving backwards through the spreads and adding some more stickers anywhere that I can see a little gap that I think might need to be filled in. And for that final finishing touch, I want to round off the corners of my Dutch door so that it looks really professional and kind of like it was always meant to be that way. So I have this fun little tool for that. It's very easy. And with that, we are finished setting up for November. Let's have a little flip through start to finish. As much as I know I'll be sad that this holiday I've been really looking forward to will be over once we're into November, I'm also really looking forward to using this setup. Thank you so much for planning with me. I really enjoyed spending this time with you. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, make sure you leave me a clock emoji in your comment down below. That said, if this one isn't quite your vibe, I have plenty of November themes on my channel already from previous years, and also the mystery journal, which is a journal I make for someone else. You can check out my November mystery journal setup on the screen on the top right corner there at the moment. Similar vibes to this one, but a bit more simple. And below that is a link to a video YouTube thinks you will enjoy.